Greetings, members one and all of the Salivation Nation. Why I love other metals. What you see before you here is a collection of other types of metals in bullion form. And these are kinds of metals that influence us, and they are in everyday society, in electronics, biomedical, or some sort of manufacturing process. And these particular metals here happen to be some of the few of the non-precious metals that come in bullion form. And this started after the rise of the silver and gold back in 2011. Many of these precious metals companies that make these types of things started producing other types of, quote, bullion. And these, quote, exotic metals, as it were, although they're not really that exotic, are ways to be able to acquire different types of metals from the periodic table. And some people were kind of thinking that perhaps we would see several other new silver type pieces if the precious metals were to rise, that we could have other metals from which to hedge ourselves or even invest. And I think that was the mode and thinking behind creating some of these different types of pieces. This is an example of some of the lesser expensive types of metals out there, not precious, but that can be acquired. And some were thinking that they could potentially increase in price, therefore maybe be stackable. And that was the mode of thinking in producing these pieces. Nonetheless, they're fun to collect, and I purchased them just as a mode of collection, to add to the collection. There are other metals out there, many of which have a lot of use in industry, in the medical and manufacturing fields. The examples that you see before you here are tungsten, zinc, magnesium, nickel, and titanium. And these are just an example of others that have been created, although these are lesser expensive variations, and the more expensive metals that are out there I chose not to purchase because they're highly speculative. These were cheap enough that they could be acquired for such a price and be admired. As you can see, they all have different properties in terms of density, weight, and durability and strength and thickness. But by and large, they all kind of serve their own purpose in what they do to provide for things like an inert, strong metal that's used a lot in the medical field, such as titanium, to tungsten, which is a very hard, dense metal that can be used to cut other metals. Things like zinc is great for the medical field to help prevent colds and to be used in medicines. Magnesium can be used as a fuel, the flame. And the nickel, obviously, is used in our nickel. 25% of the nickel that we spend today is nickel. That composition, 75% copper, but also has many other uses in industry and is mined. Silver is a byproduct many times of nickel. These particular pieces here represent the love of all metals, of the rest of the metals that are out there, to be acquired either as a bullion form, as you see here, or to just be enjoyed and appreciated for the use of metal in our lives. That's right, other metals. Quite interesting and fun to have and to accumulate. Just in case, you never know. I don't have a whole lot of these. A lot of these I just have one example of, or a few ounces here and there. But sometimes when you are accumulating precious metals, it may not hurt once in a while to grab, an ounce or here of some other type of metal that you enjoy. Whether it be the fringe precious metals that I've shown in the platinum metals group or nickel. There was a time when the prices were high for nickel, when people were stacking the pure nickel Canadian nickels, and then they started producing these bullion pieces here, and people could accumulate them. But the rest of these metals, like copper, should not be used as a hedge or inflation or really even an investment. It's just something to have to diversify an ever-growing stack in the off chance that some of these metals skyrocket. And there was a time when there was a thought that nickel would possibly go way up in price. That never came to be. All metals prices ended up coming back down, but nonetheless, it is fascinating to see how many of these things were produced, and I'm sure that some of them can still be acquired today. But what's amazing is the density and the of the variation of these metals here. Magnesium is very, very lightweight, even much more lightweight than titanium, which is very lightweight. Aluminum is another lightweight metal. I don't have an example of aluminum here, but they did make also an aluminum bullion round as well. Zinc is a very shiny, sort of a silvery gray metal there. And it has definitely serves a lot of purpose in industry and in medicine, but quite a beautiful metal there. Tungsten is just an amazingly strong metal, very dense, very tough to, it's almost impossible to coin or to create dyes out of, but obviously it can be laser etched and it can be machined, and that's what you see here with this bullion piece here. Fascinating indeed. Now, like copper, I will say that most of these other metals are not measured in troy ounces. As you can see here, they are measured in avodoporous ounces, which is less than a troy ounce. I believe it's 0.28 troy ounces, if I'm not mistaken. But it's quite fascinating to see how these things are measured. And copper is traded by the pound, but I don't know how these other metals are. Now, these are pure elements. In other words, these are pure examples of metals that are on the periodic table. But I'll make a brief mention of alloys, such as brass or bronze, which are mainly copper and have the balance of zinc or other metals in there to balance it out. And those have also been created as bullion-type pieces at one point. I don't really have any example of those because I'm a purist when it comes to my metal. I like my metal pure indeed. But I just thought I would make this video to showcase and to give a little love to all the other metals. Though this is just a small representation of, it is a love of other metals like zirconium, niobium, iridium. Iridium would be considered a precious metal, but other metals that I don't have. One of these days, I would love to get a collection of all of the elements, the metals, the inert, the safe metals. There's other metals out there that I don't have that I'll never get that are radioactive: plutonium, californium, uranium. Yeah, I'm going to stay as far away as I can from those metals, but those are also very useful metals for obvious reasons. And but they're metals that I will never have in my collection and you'll never see in a bullion form. Most of the metals you see today are by and large inert. They won't cause any problems or issues under normal circumstances at room temperature. There are some exceptions when the temperature changed or when it's in a certain form, powder or what have you, but in metal form, most of these metals are inert. So there you have it. This concludes the series on why I love insert your favorite metal or a metal here. I hope you enjoyed this series. I would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for watching and encourage you to please rate, comment, and subscribe.